Hi everyone, my name is Madeline Heller and I'm going to be presenting an article, When Does Aging Begin?, written by Leonard Hayflick in 1984 as part of research on aging. Just to summarize the article a bit, this article is written in order to answer the question of when aging begins in a scientifically correct answer. The article actually starts out by saying that there is no scientifically correct or definitive answer to this question. The author shows this by disproving some of the widely held theories of when aging actually begins through some key biological principles. And at the end of the article, the author actually does present one possible answer, which is that, this is quoting George Sasher, it is that the longevity is a determinate process. And when the longevity genes cease to function, that's when the process of aging actually begins. So, just to go through some of the main points of the article, there are two popular theories of when aging begins, and those two are examined in the first part of the article. The theory that aging starts at conception is widely accepted, but it is actually questioned by the fact that germ cells, that's sperm and egg cells, are actually alive, and they do show some aging changes before they fuse. So since germ cells are actually immortal and they are passed from generation to generation, the question obviously stands: when did aging actually begin? There is no way that we can actually point to the moment in time that the aging of this germ cell started. At the other extreme, the theory that aging begins after sexual maturation is definitely widely accepted. And the problem with that is that aging cannot be said to begin after any single biological change. So even if it does begin after sexual maturation, we still can't pinpoint the exact time or the exact age, day, year in a person's life that aging actually begins. This is because there really isn't any precise definition for biological aging. So there therefore is no universal criteria used to measure whether aging is actually present. So therefore there's no way for us to point to that one moment in time when people actually as a whole start to age, especially since the rates of age changes vary from person to person. An example of the different criteria that could be used to measure aging are, firstly, you could use physiological ideas. For example, you can use the idea of the strength and stamina needed to run a marathon. So as soon as people are not able to run a marathon as quickly as they used to, that should show us that age changes have begun, and they do. However, we could also use changes in cognitive function, and that would show us a different time in a person's life when aging actually begins. We can use changes at the cellular level, such as the decline of cell function or cell loss. This is particularly problematic because cell loss actually happens throughout life, and it's a healthy thing. It even happens in an embryo, cell loss. So it is not a good measurement of when a person actually begins to age. But these are some of the ways that we can see that it's not necessarily that simple to use any criteria in order to measure if age changes have begun. So then the author actually goes off on a bit of a tangent, and the second main point is that the phenomenon of aging in humans in the race actually began when humans started to be able to protect themselves from the predators and elements and infectious diseases. This allowed humans to actually survive far beyond the years of maximum reproductive life. Species usually do not survive past that maximum reproductive life. As we see with feral animals, animals in the wild, they do not really usually survive past a certain age, usually after they've finished bringing up their young. But because humans have learned to be able to protect themselves from the different elements and the different predators and different infectious diseases that used to kill us out when we actually were infants or mothers in childbirth, we kind of pushed up the age, and we're able to survive now far past where we officially should be able to survive until. And then the author says that there's brings up this one possible answer to the question of when aging actually begins. It's based on a theory by George Sasher, and he says that aging and death, and then before the aging longevity. There are three separate components in life. So sorry, one more time. The longevity, aging, and then death are three separate components in life. And as soon as longevity assurance genes stop to function, that's when the aging process begins.